This is a boy. We could speculate, analyze, and discuss, but from this picture, we know next to nothing about him. But what if we could? We live in a world today where our entire lives can be shared if we choose to. And while it's great to know what my friend in Singapore is eating for breakfast, lunch, snack, and dinner every single day, the lives that are crucial to know about are not necessarily the ones being told. For the most part, I don't think my 22-year-old life is particularly interesting. I was born in France to a Singaporean mother and French father, both from very humble backgrounds, but who worked very, very hard to give my brother and I the best start in life. It was the day my dad suddenly decided to move to China, in Beijing, when I was 10 years old, that ultimately changed my life forever. We became neighbors with a lovely lady named Tanya, who founded a healing home named Blue Sky. Blue Sky grew out of the need to help the constant abandonment of babies with mild to severe medical challenges due to the one-child policy in China. They received no government support and were solely funded by donations. One day, Tanya asked me whether I could take pictures. She was trying to create a brochure for her healing home, but even though I knew nothing about photography at the time since I was 10 years old, I said yes without hesitation. I rushed home, kind of stole my mom's camera, and went over to Blue Sky. There I was introduced to all the children. Some posed graciously for pictures for me. Others were so fascinated with this weird object I was holding that they preferred to stay behind the lens right by my head the entire time. Then I was asked to wash my hands, take off my shoes, and head up the stairs. It was then I met a little boy named Mickey. Mickey was abandoned at birth. For reasons I'll never personally comprehend, he was left in the freezing cold in a hillside in Shandong province. When he was found, he was nearly completely frozen. As a result, his left toes had to be amputated due to the frostbite that developed. He also had a congenital complicated heart disease. This basically meant he needed a new heart to survive. And as if that wasn't enough, he had an extremely weak immune system. He was only 7 months old when I met him, and hearing all of this, the mere fact that he was alive and had a smile on his face was just amazing. This little boy was clearly such a fighter, and he wanted to survive. And I was so inspired to find a way to help him. The doctors there told me that there was simply no way for him to receive a new heart. But he needed a weekly medical support that was extremely costly, and Blue Sky could not afford, in order to prolong his life. I thought of this idea with the encouragement of my parents, that I'd go photograph the quickly disappearing Shui minority who live in a small area in the mountains of Guizhou province, and create a small coffee table book. I did this because I didn't want to simply use Mickey to solicit donations. I thought that if I could raise the money by giving these books in exchange, it would just be a better way to get donations and spread awareness at the same time. Once I returned home, I went to look for a place that were willing to produce these books for basically no cost, and then I got my self-designed little books into printing. The night before the delivery of my books, I received a phone call that Mickey had passed away. Unfortunately, he had caught the flu, and he was so weak that he simply couldn't fight it off. There was so much at 10 years old that I just couldn't understand. For a long time, and still today, I can't help but blame myself for not acting faster, for getting so carried away with my little artistic ideas, and for not finding an instant solution for him. And though losing him was extremely hard to accept, I knew his story had to be told. I went on to sell my books with a preface dedicated to him to all the schools and communities around me, and I managed to raise over 48,000 RMB, which roughly comes to over 7,000 US dollars, which I then gave to Blue Sky for them to help and heal all their other children who deserve just as much support and love. And while photography has been my tool to help others, music was my personal safe haven. Whenever I was stressed out, I'd come home and play hours of piano as a form of musical therapy, I suppose. Therefore, in my teenage years, the few songs I had were either about some unrequited love problems or about the interactions with the world around me. I thought that much like photography, I could use music as a tool to conduct and share important stories, like those of Mickey. But when I met with Atlantic Records when I was 16 in London, I was told that no one wanted to hear a pretty girl sing about poverty. Fair to say, I did not sign a record deal that day, but still, I felt that it was really important to share these stories that I cared so much about. And though my photography and music was trying to spread awareness, I felt that there was still something missing. There was so much that I wasn't telling. Along my journey, I was fortunate enough to meet a very talented editor named Max Gray, who introduced me to a technology developed by Sky Interactive. When I was first shown this technology, it applied to retail, where a woman was walking down the street in an advertisement, and you could click on her lips, her eyes, her clothes, and find out the products she had, where you could buy them, and how much they cost. But then I thought, what if you could apply this to allow a deeper insight into our original content, to give the audience the option to know more about what they are watching? What is so amazing about this is you could have one story branching off to 10, and those 10 stories could branch off to another 2, 3, or 4 stories. The amount of knowledge we could share in one photograph, one video, or one song is absolutely exponential. We could find out all about who this little boy is, or not, with one click of a button. And so with the kind help of Sky Interactive, they combined my song, Losing My Mind, with video, photography, and their groundbreaking interactivity to share the stories, like stories of Mickey, of lost children in Indonesia, of endangered elephants, and to share all the stories we care so much about. So I'm going to demonstrate a quick prototype for you that barely scratches the surface of what this technology could do.
I must be losing my mind. Living is a cold heart that no one is there when I need it. I'm breaking every limb. I don't know how to fix it. I'm feeling everyone around me fall. I'm trying to mend a broken wall. I've lost it all. But I am falling from the sky. The light is making my tears dry. The ocean
So these
is
icons will
only
appear, these little red icons on these projections on my body, that can lead you to other videos. For example, you saw this picture of a glacier kind of projected on my back, and it'll lead to a video that then informs
Our
you
oceans,
about the
source of
danger
life
to our
and food,
oceans.
are being destroyed at an alarming pace. I'm a marine biologist and environmentalist, and my work is to study and measure the human impact on the marine environment. Our oceans are the Earth's essential source of life. Because they are so big, we act as if we could do anything, take anything, and drop inside any dirt without consequences. But we are wrong. Oceans are not too big to die. The combination of pollution and overfishing is draining life out of our waters. The Mediterranean Sea is more or less a dead sea, while it was beaming with fishes only half a century ago. And this is just the beginning. We are fishing each year more than what the oceans can create of renewed life, changing natural selection to a man-made selection, where some species, good to eat, are being depleted and some others, left without predators, are taking over our waters, such as large jellyfish or the pterois, aka lionfish, and thus accelerating the unnatural selection that men triggered. At the same time, pH levels are tipping to a point where the waters become too acidic to favor life renewal, accentuating this unnatural phenomenon. As another consequence of pollution, coral reefs, essential for fish sheltering and reproduction, are dying. This global imbalance results also in depriving the oceans of oxygen, creating swaths of dead zones where marine life is unsustainable. What is alarming is that in the last 50 years, these dead zones have more than doubled in size. Meanwhile, mercury levels in the upper ocean have tripled since the beginning of the Industrial Revolution, reaching now a point where the bottom floor of the ocean can't protect us from it anymore, and making consumption of ocean-fished redfish a hazard. The amount of garbage visibly or invisibly dropped in the oceans every year is staggering. The Great Pacific Garbage Patch is just a result of this. We are changing the oceans. Soon, if we don't react and stop our practices, the biggest source of life on our planet would be a dead space. And this surely will be the first step toward our own extinction.
This is just one of many stories that are projected in this video, and this video itself barely scratches the surface of many things we could apply it to and the many things we could do. I was once asked what I would do to fix this world. I honestly wish I had an answer to that, but I don't. The one thing I do know, as cliche as it may sound, is that if we all showed a little kindness to each other, we would live in a better world. So for now, all I can do is shed light to the subjects I care for and hope that it will resonate with my audience, and hope that together we can turn this awareness into action, and together we could affect some kind of change. If you would like to view this video in full, which I would love if you did, or you feel inspired to create your own video and use this interactivity, please visit the website tanis.world/TEDx. Here's the link, just so you could see it. Thank you so much for listening.